Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
So, did you know the Motorsport Olympics were taking place last weekend? I didn't. I stumbled onto them by accident. But the brand new FIA Motorsport Games featured 6 events across 3 days. We had Formula 4, touring cars, karting slaloms, esports, GT racing and drifting. Motorsport did actually feature at the 1900 Olympic Games, mostly being won by French teams. And there was even water motorsports at the 1908 Olympic Games. But there has never been motorsport at modern Olympic level, and I guess the FIA got fed up and said, screw it, we'll do it ourselves. So they did, and let's take a look at the 2019 FIA Motorsport Games. I'll start with the touring cars. It was interesting seeing names like Coronel, Philippi and Homela in the touring car race. And now surely the United Kingdom, one of the greatest motorsport racing nations in history, could have put a decent name forward to represent them in the first ever Olympic style event. Rory Butcher. Forget I mentioned it. The first touring car race and early drama for the Q8 and Lithuanian drivers, and an early safety car was called for the stricken alpha of Norwegian Christian Mo Seferen. Now from here on out I might refer to the drivers as their nation and not their name, just because it gets a little confusing, but excuse me if I go back and forth between the two. Coronel and Magnus would get together, causing damage to Tom Coronel's Honda. Pretty much matches the kind of season he's had in world touring cars. Gavrilov of Russia would win the race from Slovakia's Homela and Belgium's Magnus, who was probably the racer of the race with some ambitious overtakes and good fighting. The second touring car race started well. Philippi crashed on the formation lap, causing a delay. That's pretty embarrassing whenever it happens, and this wasn't any better. The safety car came straight out anyway due to Luca Engstler going off, after hitting the Italian car which stalled on the grid. His bad weekend continued after engine problems eliminated him from the first race. The New Zealand driver then shot across the grass and nearly played 10-pin bowling with his competitors before getting bogged down in the gravel. Tom Coronel would sweep around the outside of Homela into third in the move of the day. Magnus was dominating the race miles away up front, but then the Chinese MG driver went into the gravel and the safety car came out, leading to a one-lap shootout to finish. Magnus would win for Belgium, followed by Gavrilov, Coronel and a hard-charging Butcher, with Russia winning gold, Belgium silver and Slovakia bronze. Now, the Formula 4 had a qualifying race on the Saturday, and Japan ended up in the tyre barrier and out of the race. Q8 also ended up spinning round and out. There's a good battle between Italy and Germany for pole, and late on Israel got past Germany for second. Now the main race was not as exciting, at least not for the first half. The first incident of note was the Russian driver spinning round on his own. It was Italy and Israel fighting out front, but just as Italy took the lead, the Belgium car crashed and the safety car came out. After the restart, the Israel car lost places hand over fist and Japan got knocked out the race again. But at the end of the race, it was Italy winning at home from Germany and Finland. Those 3 nations shared the F4 medals. The GT Cup, Race 1. Q8 had another crasher, this time heavy into the barriers, and Paul Lipp took a trip through the gravel. A lot happened in this race. Roda of Italy spun the German driver round before the Portuguese car ran wide onto the grass and spun out into the barrier. Roda of Italy seemed to be on a mission, ramming the American Ferrari of Ferriol off the track as well. I'm guessing he wasn't there to make friends. He then spun himself, making this a very eventful 15 minutes for the Italian. The Japanese car was dominating until the rain came down and then they started to drop back. And the Spanish car decided it didn't want to play anymore and parked on the curb, and the safety car was called out for the second time. Not just for the Spanish car, the French Mercedes was also in the gravel. By this point, with the rain coming down, they were dropping like flies. The Malaysian car broke down and the US team were in the pits for repairs. In fact, so much happened in the first half of the race, and with the rain now falling, the race was red flagged and set for a restart. Japan, after such a good start, picked up a puncture. Thailand was doing well until they got into a fight with Denmark and they ran right onto the grass and dropped back. Brenton Grove got spun in his Aussie Porsche. Germany, Denmark and Belgium were left to battle at the front. A desperate lunge towards the end hampered the Belgian drivers' chances. Germany would win in their Porsche ahead of Denmark and Belgium. The second race started on the safety car due to the wet track. The Malaysian Porsche couldn't handle the rain and went off, as well as the Russian car, but the race was stopped again due to the weather. It restarted under safety car with only half distance left. The track was still treacherous, as proven by the Danish driver, who went off a couple of times within a short space of time. Towards the end of the race, the Chinese car punted the American car off. Ferriol in the American car had not had much luck at these games. And Denmark owned Italy as well, pretty much what the Italian driver deserves after the first race. Japan would win from Portugal and Chinese Taipei, and there was still a race to go. The main race, well, Spain didn't last long, spinning at the start, and the Swiss car ended up spinning into the wall. The Spanish and Italian drivers would get mixed up and both would spin out. Roda was off again shortly after, capping off his adventurous weekend. The Malaysian driver was another who spun, more than a Tesco's trolley, and he again managed it in this race. Some crash-prone drivers in the GT class. The safety car would come out as the weather turned bad, and the German Porsche would be spun out. The weather getting worse and worse towards the end of the race, that was enough for the officials, and the last 10 minutes was run on the safety car. A shame, but a sensible decision in reality. Japan won from Poland and Belgium. Now we also had drifting. I know nothing about drifting. This is the first time I have ever watched it. The Swiss and the Czech cars touched. Don't know how that affects their runs. Apparently the Austrian entry's gearbox imploded. A lot of the runners were from Eastern European countries. Is drifting really popular out there? The Lithuanian runner seemed to have a lot of trouble, first dislodging a cone from under his car and then spinning on his second run. Finland versus Q8, and for some reason the red flag was out. Q8 would spin again, just like every other event. The Latvian and the Italian had to run again because the judges couldn't choose a winner, and after the second one they still couldn't. Just pick so we can move on, goddammit. The Italian sheriff guy would spin on the third run, handing it to the Latvian. So finally the war of attrition came to an end and we can move on. But then the Italian went through. I have no idea what's going on. Someone tell me the rules. Actually, the commentators didn't know either, but the judges made it clear, so moving on. Rijkaard decided to cut a corner in the first quarter-final. Decided might be a strong word. The scoring could have done this explanation for newbies. Seemed a bit arbitrary at times, but hopefully the judges would know what they are doing. So the semi-finals, first Czech Republic versus Russia. Rijkaard of the Czech moved to the final after a good lead run. Italy versus Ukraine in the second final. Sheriff made a couple of mistakes and the Ukrainian won. So Italy versus Russia for the bronze medal, and the Sheriff hits the Russian and sends him off, which was quite funny. Fedorov was given third due to the Italian causing damage, and so the final, Czech Republic versus Ukraine, looked good. Ukraine won, but this was actually a lot of fun for a first-timer. Right, the Digital Cup. I'm not going to talk too much about esports. I don't know much about it. It's weird they'd include this and not a lot of other standard motorsports. But I guess it is a sport, so why not? Drama here too, as Hungary spun. Germany and Australia were battling for the lead until the Aussie made a mistake and dropped to third. The Netherlands driver would also spin. The German leader also spun before pitting. Germany and Australia were battling for the lead for most of the race until a second German mistake dropped him behind, and then a third spin almost taking out the UK driver. But the final drama was to Costa Rica driving out from a hard-fought lead, clutching defeat from the jaws of victory, and Australia would win from Costa Rica and Italy. Right, karting slalom was the final event. I don't know why this event was on the menu. Drifting and esports, fine, they have an audience, but who watches karting slaloms? Why not just have a kart race? The coverage was pretty poor, only about 15 minutes was shown. Netherlands won from Belgium and Russia. So how was this brand new event? Really interesting actually, lots of exciting racing. Nice to see a few different types of events, especially adding the drifting and digital cup. The karting was a bit of a waste. But if they do it again next year, it'd be nice to see some more disciplines. Maybe an electric series and a different kind of karting. But the idea is sound. It allows younger drivers to show themselves compared to more experienced drivers, especially Magnus and Gavalov. They gave great auditions for World Touring Car places against the likes of Homolo and Coronel. And they even got actual gold, silver and bronze medals. I hope they do it again next year. I'll be looking forward to it eagerly, especially if they advertise it properly. With all that said, watch the Motorsport Olympics, subscribe and comment, and have a good one.